What's going on? This is the Denning Podcast, checking in for a mid-year 2024 list. The year's about halfway over, and it has not failed to deliver. If this is all we get for the year, I would be more than satisfied. However, we've got a lot more coming down the pipe, including new albums from Kublai Khan, Fit for a King, Static Dress, Under Oath, As I Lay Dying, A Day to Remember, and a lot more. So I figured I would come by and drop some of my favorite albums of the year thus far. It's a little bit late, but there's been a lot of good stuff coming down, and I definitely have to share them with you. If you were enjoying this podcast, definitely make sure and follow on wherever you like to podcast, whether it's Spotify, Overcast, wherever. And make sure and give this podcast a 5-star rating and review. It really helps people discover the podcast and gets it in front of new eyes. And yeah, this is a list that's in no particular order, but here we go. First up, we got POD with Veritas. This right here, ladies and gentlemen, is another reason as to why POD is one of the greatest rock bands that currently exists. This album delivers, straight up. Tracks like I Got That, Drop, and I Won't Bow Down are all great showcases that the band still brings it 30 years into their career. Also, let's talk about Cove Reaper of Saosin going off on This Is My Life. Totally caught me off guard, and I loved every single bit of it. It's super difficult to keep producing one great album after another, and yet POD manages to figure it out every single time. The greatest of all time, the GOAT. Next up, we got Knock Loose, You Won't Go Before You're Supposed to. You're not going to find many albums this year that's heavier than this one. It's absolutely punishing. Drew Folk was a fantastic choice of producer and helped the band bring their very best work to date. I love that it gets in, it gets out, and doesn't overstay its welcome with a runtime of just under 30 minutes. If you're going to PR in the gym, do it to this album. I'd love to see a re-release next year with some additional remixes and guest features. Next up is Darko with Starfire. This album has some absolutely brilliant production. It's fresh, exciting, and something that's going to grow on listeners as time moves forward. I love the guest features on this one. Garrett Russell from Silent Planet, Michael Barr from Volumes, Marcus Bridge from Northlane, and more just jump on and do their thing. It's an incredibly lengthy album, clocking in at over 70 minutes, but it never feels like it drags or has a large amount of filler. Again, I think a lot of people are going to listen to this one, and it's going to take some time to grow on them, but it's going to have a lot of lasting value. And people are going to keep coming back to it, and back to it, and back to it. Give this one a listen. Next up is Wind Waker with Hyperviolence. If you're a big fan of what Issues was doing and are super sad they called it a day in 2024, then this album is definitely going to be up your alley and going to be one of the closest things to scratching that itch. It has sugary hooks, so sweet it'll rot your teeth out, heavy guitars and breakdowns, and it has this overall swagger to it that's borderline impossible not to vibe with. Huge record for them. Huge record for them. And a massive launching pad for their future. I'd love to see them tour the breaks off of this one. Break the Rules is a jam and a half, believe me. Next up, The Ghost Inside, Searching for Solace. Call me biased if you want, but if you know me at all, then you know that this is going to be one of my favorite records of the year. This is a perfect mix of material the band could put out at this point in their career, showing nods to different points in their discography. There's nods to Returners, there's nods to Get What You Give. There's just so much on this record. There's bone-crushingly heavy guitars and breakdowns that we've known them for. But at the same time, there's some big choruses that are going to be very accessible to everybody, including some brand new fans. I feel like everyone that I've seen talking about this album has their own favorite tracks, but personally, I love Reckoning, Wrath, and Earn It. And again, if you haven't listened to my episode with Tyler Smith, he actually worked on Earn It and gave some really cool insight into how that track came to be. Next up, we got The Story So Far with I Want to Disappear. It has been quite some time since The Story So Far has dropped an album. Nearly 5 years, in fact. Also, this is the first album not to be produced by Sam Pura, instead going to Ben Hirschfield, who has worked with bands like No Pressure, Elder Brother, and Same Side. Largely revolving around the loss of his Parker Cannon's father, and just processing that. It's a massive display of growth around the board for the band, and another album that will have lasting value as time moves forward. Next up, we got Flat Black, Dark Side of the Brain. So whoever at Fearless Records is responsible for signing this band to the label, they should be getting a massive bonus. Amazing signing. Flat Black is the new band for Jason Hook, formerly of Five Finger Death Punch, and also one of rock music's very best guitarists, hands down. This album will drive you all the way to Riff City and back. Nearly every single song on this album has a big hook and a ripping guitar solo to match it. Some may accidentally sleep on this album, but it doesn't mean that you have to. If you love bands like Trivium, this is right up your alley. Definitely do not miss this one. Check it out. Has a great Corey Taylor feature in the back half of the album. I think this one, again, is really going to go under people's radar. But then with next year, they're on Shiprocked. They're doing all sorts of things. It's going to blow up in a big way. Next up is Wage War with Stigma. The whole cinematic vibe they were aiming for, they nailed it. I understand that everyone may not be interested in what they're doing this time around, but you better believe I am definitely in this target audience. Songs like The Show's About to Start not only will blow up live, but would fit excellently on sports promos, especially college football. At this point in their career, Wage War is absolutely killing it. They are headlining the biggest rooms they've ever headlined. And, they are going to break into some new territories and get even bigger. This is a big, big, big year for Wage War, and I cannot be more excited for them. They've worked super duper hard all the way since Warped Tour and all that. And yeah, great spot for them to be in. So definitely give this record a look. And yeah, next up is Islander with Grammy nominated. This one was released independently and on their own terms. This album could not have been done any better than they did it. They funded this one through Kickstarter, which was super encouraging because, if the fans don't show up, then the album just doesn't happen. So if you like bands like POD and Blindside, you've got to check this one out. The single What a Time to Be Alive is a great place to start and has been making some noise on Sirius XM Octane. Yeah, just again, this is an album that really may not have happened if the fans didn't come through. They were dropped from Better Noise during the pandemic right before their last album. It's Not Easy Being Human dropped, which, that's a crazy story. If you haven't heard that, go to my first episode with Mikey Carvajal, where he talks about that a little bit. But yeah, definitely check out Grammy nominated. Great album. If you like those bands, this one's going to be right up your alley, and they're going to be continue making some big noise. I think places like Octane and Rock Radio are really pushing this album hard, and they're going to be making some new fans. They're currently out on the road with Lacey Sturm of Flyleaf. Neck Deep with their self-titled album. This is the first album post-pandemic for the band, and man, did they bring it. It's fast and poppy and never quite lets up in the roughly half-hour runtime, similar to that of what you would find with New Found Glory. Songs like Sort Yourself Out and Heartbreak of the Century are among the best on this one. I cannot wait until they hit my area on tour, as they have yet to do so, but they are constantly touring, as they should be. Hopefully they tour the brakes off on this one. It's a great album. I cannot stop listening to it. And yeah, last we got the home team, the Crucible of Life. That's right, the Pacific Northwest Boys. Ultimate swagger alert, man. This album has it. Pop rock with some serious R&B influence. This one's going to get you moving and grooving. They work with a whole team of people, including Sky and Tyler Accord and Zach Jones. Go ahead and listen to Love and Company, Brag, and Loud, and see if your charisma levels don't shoot all the way through the roof. Again, yeah, this was my mid-year 2024 list so far. I definitely probably missed a few albums. If you thought of something that I missed, definitely feel free to shoot me a reply on social. My Twitter /X is Jake_Denning. And I can be found over at Instagram at Jake Denning. Yeah, I've got so many great episodes coming down the pipe. Lots of great tours coming up. So I will be checking in with most, if not all of them. And yeah, if you want to hear someone in particular jump on the podcast, definitely shoot me a message and I can see what I can do to make it happen. Again, mid-year 2024, this is the Denning Podcast. My name is Jake Denning and I am signing off. Peace.